Hey internet friends! If all the wonderment and atrocities of our world were one day widely published, and the layers of secrets were peeled back for all to see, and the cockroaches had nowhere left to hide, would the general public be able to deal with it, or would they just look away? What news source would be trusted to disclose such a thing? These secrets too big for the mind to hold. Would those who spilled the beans immediately be discredited by whatever means possible by those implicated by the truth? Just some questions I have, since today we're talking about the 5 deathbed confessions that could have changed the world. I say could have because maybe the world has changed as a result of these individuals' confessions. Maybe it still can change. Maybe people like me just don't see it from where I'm sitting, or maybe I just need to be patient or something. Being patient, what's that like? Regardless, we'll start with number 5. On August 2nd, 1962, Hollywood star Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her home, lying face down, naked on her bed with a telephone in her hand. The preliminary autopsy determined that an overdose of barbiturates were the cause, and ultimately her death was deemed a probable suicide. And nearly a century later, the mystery surrounding Marilyn Monroe's sudden departure from this world remains a mystery, especially given her intimate connection to the American government. Having rumored relationships with both John and Robert Kennedy, where she was attending events and exchanging letters with the presidential family. But in the summer of 1962, all contact with the Kennedy brothers halted, and months later, Marilyn was dead. Fast forward to 2015, a retired CIA member, Mr. Normand Hodges, was admitted to the Centara General Hospital in Norfolk, Virginia. And while he was there, he confessed to murdering Marilyn Monroe, stating that the CIA had evidence that Monroe was having affairs with both Robert and John, and also her side piece was Fidel Castro. And the CIA feared that Marilyn was going to relay strategic information to the communists. Mr. Hodges claims to have entered Marilyn's room while she was sleeping. He injected her with a powerful sedative that was mixed with a barbiturate, and that's what killed her. So what did Marilyn know? What had she seen? What secrets was she about to release?
Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
Number 4. A little over a year after Marilyn Monroe's death, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, resulting in Lyndon B. Johnson being sworn in as U.S. President that same day. While the official narrative is that former U.S. Marine Lee Harvey Oswald was the shooter, many believe that he was a patsy who was framed and ultimately silenced by the CIA. Before his death in 2007, former CIA member and convicted Watergate conspirator Howard Hunt started talking. Somewhere between his CIA career and his anti-Castro efforts, the Watergate scandal, serving 33 months in prison, working as a screenwriter in Hollywood, and writing award-winning novels, his conscience began to weigh on him. And Hunt was recorded saying he had a hand in the assassination of President Kennedy, and he pointed at other individuals who were involved, conveniently leaving out former head of the CIA and former US President George H.W. Bush. After Hunt's death in January of 2007, his book American Spy was released along with his confession tape, which his son, St. John Hunt, his son's name was Saint, discussed on a radio show. Saint said that his father had mailed a cassette tape to him in 2004 and asked that it be released after his death. The 20-minute long tape was edited down to 4.5 minutes for public consumption, with Hunt alleging that then Vice President Lyndon Johnson was majorly involved in planning the assassination and the cover-up, stating that the vice president had almost a maniacal urge to become president, and that he regarded JFK as an obstacle to achieving that. While the tapes were released at a surprisingly convenient time, just in time for the promotion of Hunt's new novel, if what he said was true, that means that the JFK assassination was a CIA plot, not the result of one lone gunman. The secret JFK files, mostly from the FBI and the CIA, could be made public by October 2017, unless President Trump declares that keeping them a secret is a matter of national security. If they are made public, do you think Hunt's story will be reflected in those files? Number 3. We're moving on from American royalty to British royalty. Nearly 20 years ago, Princess Diana and her boyfriend Dodi Fayed were killed in a car crash in Paris. Dodi's father, Mohammed Al Fayed, billionaire and former owner of Harrods department store, claimed that his son and Princess Diana were executed by MI6 agents who knew of Dodi and Diana's engagement. Diana suffered for 20 years from this Dracula family, Fayed said. Dracula is an interesting word there, isn't it, when describing the royal family. In June of 2017, a confession by a retired British intelligence agent seemed to echo Fayed's suspicions, as the MI5 agent confessed to assassinating Princess Diana, and he claimed he was involved with the MI5 assassinations between June 1973 in December 1999, saying he was part of a cell of 7 operatives who were trusted to carry out political assassinations. The fact-checking website Snopes was quick to mark these claims as false. You'll notice that as a trend as we proceed. Snopes goes out of their way to mark something as false without even giving themselves enough time to debunk it. There were a series of strange events leading up to that fatal car crash, including threatening phone calls made to Diana, letters sent by Diana to close friends that predicted her death, even speculating that it would be by car crash. And on the night of her death, they switched out the cars before heading over to Dodi's flat. And all 17 of the cameras along the route to that flat were either turned off or not working. Post-accident, Diana remained in that Paris tunnel for 81 minutes. I would like to see Snopes put their skills to use and do an investigation on if we, the people, were given the whole truth about the death of Princess Diana. That is, if Snopes isn't too busy hiring prostitutes. Number 2. On his deathbed, the father of ADHD, Dr. Leon Eisenberg, admitted that ADHD was a prime example of a fictitious disease. Throughout his life, Dr. Eisenberg was a big name in the field of child psychiatry and was one of the first to conduct studies on autism and attention deficit disorder. There's speculation about what he meant by calling the deficit disorder a fictitious disease. Some say he meant that children are not born with this disorder, rather it's something that the children develop throughout adolescence. So by this interpretation, he was pointing to environmental factors. Either way, thanks to pharmaceutical sales, Dr. Eisenberg made a living off this fictitious or fabricated disease he studied. Fun fact, did you know that in the United States, 1 out of 10 boys among 10-year-olds takes medication for ADHD on a daily basis? Throwing pills at a problem seems to be the new norm, and that norm is raking in the dough for pharmaceutical companies. A report from 2015 stated that ADHD was a multi-billion-dollar industry, more specifically a $13 billion a year industry. But aren't there other ways to treat ADHD without going to medication right off the bat? Do doctors go to that first? Do they look for alternative treatments? I'd be interested to know your experience. Number 1. Much like the Kennedy assassination, many believe that 9/11 was largely an inside job. After being told he had only weeks to live, retired CIA agent Malcolm Howard claimed that he was involved in the controlled demolition of World Trade Center 7. A civil engineer by trade, Mr. Howard said that he was recruited by the CIA in the early 1980s and became part of Operation New Century, which took place between 1997 and 2001. In an article released on July 12, 2017, Mr. Howard claimed to have experience in discreetly planting explosives in both tiny places and in 80-story buildings. Again, Snopes was quick to label this fake news because the source was Your Newswire, which never lists sources and is a site that is sketchy at best. Yet Snopes does very little research of their own, stating that this man does not exist. But had they done their research, something they found might have given them pause. Not saying this is a hard fact or anything, just something I came across that made me go, A judge by the name of Malcolm Howard, the same age as our CIA individual with only weeks to live, boasts an extensive list of awards and accomplishments, among them having attended Ranger School, which gives you a nice refresher course in demolitions. The good judge was part of the United States Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court between the years 2005 and 2012, which puts him in a really interesting position when you put him beside what Snopes has deemed the fake 9/11 claim. I'll put more links in the comments just in case you want to check it out. So the question we must now ask ourselves in order to assess what's been said in this video is, what would these individuals gain by lying? If they did indeed say these things, why would they spend the last moments of their lives trolling us? Do they have a motive to do so? I guess it's possible. Should we discount what they've said automatically because they haven't been quoted on CNN? Would CNN air this sort of material? If there was a major deathbed confession that would potentially change the world, what news outlet would you trust to air it? Let me know. I always look forward to your comments. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel on Patreon. Bye!